Okay, we're recording. Hey everybody, so I'm Jordan Splinter. I am a presidential diamond in Fire Tribe, and I am so excited to be on here tonight to interview and talk with Debora. And she's going to go into all the detail and tell you more about it. But Debora got to go to such an incredible event, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. I'm sure all of you guys have heard of Rachel Hollis. If you haven't, then you've literally only been in the business for like 5 seconds, because she's incredible and she offers just so much to our self-development as a team. And we just have learned so much from her through books and podcasts and all different kinds of things. And Debora actually got to go to her, let me mute everybody. Debora got to go to her Rise business conference, and I'm so excited to hear more details about this. I haven't gotten to talk to Debora yet about it, but Debora, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us how long you've been in the business, and we'll dive right in, and I want to hear all the details.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Hey guys, how is everyone? So I am Debora Logel. If you don't know me, I'm Debora Logel. I've been in the business for almost 2 years. I'm a double diamond. I started when I was a very, very busy director at a resort, and I loved my job, but I worked like a million hours. You guys, like, I'm not even joking when I was talking like two jobs, like between 60 and 80 hours a week. And when I met Brittany, I didn't even meet her on social like most of you did. I met Brittany at church, and I had never heard of the business. I had never heard of the company, and we weren't even friends, even though we went to the same church. But I met Brittany, I heard her story, and the more that she started telling me about her business, and I was just making small talk. I really was not even interested. I was just being nice, and she seemed like a cool person, so we were just making small talk. And the more I started talking to her, the more interested I became, and I just started hearing like all these amazing things that she could do with her business. And I was interested, obviously, but there was no way that I could fit at home parties and vendor events and all of these things that I had in my head into my schedule. And she just assured me, she was like, I built my business 100% on social media. I can show you how to do this no matter what your schedule, no matter how busy you are. I'll show you how you can do this. And so I honestly was just at kind of a point in my life where I literally was like, I have nothing to lose. I have to, like, something has to change. Something has to give. I was working so many hours. I never saw my kids. My hair was like falling out from the stress. I was getting ulcers. I couldn't sleep at night. It was insane. My schedule was busier than I had ever been in my entire life when I joined this company. And like, it seemed so crazy, but it also seemed like it could either be the biggest blessing of my entire life, or it could just be, a waste of time. But either way, I had to try. And so I jumped in. I started working on the side, and I worked in like 5-minute increments here and there. And in 1 year, I matched my full-time income and quit my job. And so I started in January 2018, and as of January 2019, this is my full-time job, and I get to be a stay-at-home mom, and I get to bring my kids to school and work my business from home. And so I have been doing this full-time exclusively since January. And so I'm just going to dive right in. You guys, I literally was going through, I didn't even realize I took this many notes until I was going through my notebook here. So we had this Rise business journal. I took about 40 pages of notes, and I've condensed that down to like 5.5, and they're mostly just snippets. So I'm going to talk fast and I'm going to go super quick because I have so much to say. And you guys, I could probably spend like 3 hours. First of all, I'm a talker, but it was just that good. So I could spend like hours and hours telling you all the things, but I'm going to keep it real short. So the speakers were Rachel and Dave Hollis, Brendan Bouchard, who does High Performance Habits. If you've read his book, he was phenomenal. Amy Porterfield, she talked about online marketing made easy, and she has a podcast. Trent Shelton, Chris Hogan, Ed Milet, Dean Graziosi, I can never say his last name, Tom Bilyeu, and Marie Forleo. And so I have just condensed kind of the takeaways that I had from each of them down to literally just like snippets. So if you've got, extra time and you want the expanded version, I would love to get on the phone and tell you more, but I'm going to just dive right in. One of the things that stood out to me, Rachel Hollis kicked off the conference by talking about the fact that whenever you are in a small business, you should work at the speed of cash. And she talks about not taking out loans and not putting not borrowing money, not taking out loans, not putting like massive amounts into inventory and credit cards and all these things to go into debt so that you can do your business so much quicker, which doesn't apply to us. And I thought that was so, so cool that you start our business and you pay $99 and you get $99 in products. So if you turn right around and sell that, you have a free business. So it doesn't even cost us anything. So that was just one of the aha moments that like literally was like the first words out of her mouth was like, I'm so grateful we don't have like brick and mortar stores and we have to buy stock and buy inventory and start from the ground up. You literally start this business completely debt free. And so that was just so incredible to me, like right out of the gate, how blessed we are to be in a company that does not require us to purchase massive amounts of inventory. We are never required to keep auto ships or do any of that if, it at certain amounts or certain volumes like other companies do require. And so I just, that was really interesting right out of the bat. She said, give people the tools to change their lives and use your gifts and what you have in your toolbox. She said, it's so easy for us to look at all of these people in our field or in our scope and try to nitpick and be like, if I could just take pictures like this person, if I could write like this person, and if I just looked like this person. And she said, it's so easy to want to like nitpick and put together this like perfect person that we are supposed to be by picking the best aspects of all of the friends and the top leaders and the people we know. But she said, you don't have to have all of these magical things combined to be this perfect human that you're aspiring to be. She said, you just have to use the gifts that God gave you, use the tools that he gave you in your toolbox. Maybe you are phenomenal at taking pictures. Maybe you're a great photographer. Maybe you're great at speaking to people in person. Maybe you are great at leadership or recruiting. Whatever your gifts and talents, you can use them to be successful. You don't have to have any specific skill set. I mean, you're definitely going to strengthen some things and you're going to get better at other things, but you don't have to have this like perfect, toolbox of things that we all think that we have to have. She said, use what you have and build on that. If you know your strengths, play on those strengths, and while building off of your weaknesses in the side, but play to your strengths. She said, if you don't take steps towards your passion, you're denying who God made you to be. And so, if you've read Girl Wash Your Face or Girl Stop Apologizing, one of her very big things is the fact that she always wanted to be a business owner. She always wanted to run a business. She always wanted to be a working mom. But all of these people just made her feel so guilty about it. And she had all this mom guilt about working and about doing all these things. And she said, God put those desires in your heart for a reason. And when you are denying your passions and the things that make you come alive, she said, you are denying who God created you to be. She said, it's so easy for us to look at the people around us, whether it be a spouse or a best friend or a coworker or a parent or these voices of authority in our lives and the voices that hold weight, that we feel like they're valid opinions, and maybe they're not. But she said, we allow these people to steal our passion because we're not living up to who God created us to be. And so that was just so impactful to me, because there are so many times that do you need something?
I'll wait till you're done.
Well, I'm going to be a while. I'll come kiss you goodnight just a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Sorry. But she talks about when you give away your time to everyone else instead of working your business. She said, it's so easy for us as moms to feel guilty about taking time to build our business because we feel like our kids need us, our husband needs us, our mom wants us, our best friend wants to talk on the phone, like all these things. And she said, when you're giving your time away to all of these other things that are not your business, you are validating that they are more important than the desires that God put on your heart, and that the business that he has given you and blessed you with. She said, not only do you owe it to your family and to yourself, but you owe it to God to live up to those God-given passions that he put in your heart and to live up to your full potential, which was just so impactful for me, especially, I mean, all of us. I see lots of kids in the picture over here, like all of us that are moms. It's so easy to feel guilty that we are taking time from our family to build. But you've heard a lot of us top leaders, you've heard Brittany say this before, that your kids do not want 100% of your time. And I think, I can 100% relate to that. I feel like because I was working so many hours for so many years, I feel like, when I stopped working full time and I was at home, it was so easy for me to feel like I had to make up for lost time. So anytime my family was in the room, they got my attention. And it was so easy for me to just pull away and give them my attention because I felt like I had to make up for lost time. But in actuality, if you give your family quality time, and if you take time to sit down and visit with your kids and read them a book and love on them and kiss them and hug them, they only want a few minutes of your time, truly. When you spend time with your spouse and you have some conversation and you sit and you have a glass of wine, or you talk about your day, or you just unpack, or you talk about things that inspired you, that's good. They really don't need your entire day, your entire evening, and all these things. And so she said, you can't help people to the best of your ability if you aren't living up to your full potential. She said, you owe it to your family to set boundaries in your life and be the best business owner that you can be. Because as high as you can climb, that's where your kids get to start. So think about that. Wherever your parents left off was the jumping point for where you got started. If your parents made good enough money to send you to college, or to, buy you a car when you were 16, or whatever it was that your parents built, gave you the jumping point. And so as far as you can build, that gives your kids the jumping point to go from there. And so if we stay at a level 2 in our business, we can only provide for our kids at a level 2 level. When it's time for your kids to go to college, you can't pay for a level 10 college because you haven't worked your business at a level 10. When it's time for your kids to go to college, but you've built a level 10 business, you can pay for cash for them to go to any Ivy League school in the country. You can buy them a car when they're 16. You can send them to a private school, to a college. You can give them the best of the best because you have built something so amazing that you can give your family more because you have taken time to build your business. And it's very easy for us to look at, we're taking time away from our family and that's, quote unquote bad. No, you are doing the best for your family when you build your business to the highest level that you can possibly go, because God blessed you and gave you the potential to go to a level 10 with your life, with your business, with your relationships, with all of these things. But we owe it to our families to build to that level and not stay at a level 2. If you only ever build to a level 2, you're only showing your kids that level 2 value of what you're worth. And Ed Milet said, he was talking about, he said, at some point, your kids are going to get to a place in their lives where they look at you for not just being their mom, but for who you are in the world. And you want your kids to be proud of you. You want your kids to know that you made something of yourself. And oh my goodness, I'll tell you more about his speech in just a second. I loved Ed Milet. But so one of the things that Rachel was talking about as far as like skill and improving and actual tools, she said every single thing that you see is an opportunity to improve your brand. Always be tweaking and growing and changing to get better. She was talking about how we have these different categories, and whenever you can fix with our product, there's nothing that we're fixing with our product. Our product is our product. So if that doesn't really apply to us. That would apply if you had something that maybe you were creating, maybe you were an artist or a painter or whatever it was that your business was. She was talking about the 3 things that you can improve on is your product, your service, which is our customer service, and that's 100% us. And she was talking about whenever you improve the experience for your customer, you are bringing them back for more. And she said you have your product, your service, and your experience. Those are the 3 things. Our products are phenomenal. There's nothing that we need to or even could tweak. But our services and the experience that you are providing for your customers is what's going to bring them coming back to you over and over and over again. She was talking about, and I know Brittany has mentioned this too, about utilizing your current customers to not only continue over and over and over and over, so they don't just order 3 months and drop off, but they continue to order for months and months and months and years at a time. And even if it's not a continuous 2 years, if they order for 6 or 8 or 12 months and then they drop off for a few months and then they're back for a few months, if they drop off and then they're back, if you keep them coming back for more, those current customers are the quickest, the fastest, and the most reliable source of revenue that you can bring in very quickly. And when you give them value and you provide amazing customer service and you provide an experience that makes them want to come back for more, she said you are going to have this cyclical event where you put out an offer, you attract them, you seal the deal, they buy from you, they become a customer, and it goes around and around and around because you're continually putting out more things that they want, and you're providing them with the customer service and an experience that's enjoyable to them. She said, people don't buy what they need. She said, we all know what we need. People buy what they want. She said, you have to make them want it because of the experience and the customer service that you're providing. She said, think about, all of these things in your life. She said, we know what we should be eating. We don't eat that way. We know how much we should be exercising. We don't exercise unless we want to. We know these things that we should be doing with our business. We only do those if we want to. Same thing with your customer. Your customer may know that they need your products, but unless they want it, and unless you create that atmosphere that makes them want to come back for more, they're not going to come back. No matter how much you tell them they need it, no matter how much they know that they need it, you have to make them want it. And so she was talking about improving your brand and the customer experience to bring customers back over and over again. And she was talking about just upselling your current customers. She said, you have to get to know your customer base and know what they want so that you know how to sell. She said, if you know what your customer base wants, you can sell anything and with ease. And she was talking about the creation of the Start Today journal. And she said, journaling was something that she's been doing for like 15 years now. She said, that's nothing new. She said, but I was talking consistently about the fact that I would write down my goals and my dreams and my affirmations in a 90-cent spiral. And she said, I was just talking about how I would journal every single day. And she was like, what I kept hearing over and over and over and over again was the fact that people kept asking, what journal do you use? What journal do you use? What journal do you use? And she said, even though I would tell them over and over that they could go out and do it for free on their own or pay 90 cents for a spiral notebook or whatever, she said they wanted something that was our brand. And so she said, your customers will tell you what they need with what they engage with. And she said, because I was talking about the fact that I was journaling, she was like, that brought a need for the journal. And she was talking about how that journal has made her millions of dollars. And the fact that it was such a simplistic idea, and it's not even something and if you'll notice this, if you hear her, whenever her and Dave get on and they do like the morning show, she'll talk about journaling. And she straight up mentions, she says, you do not have to buy a product from us. You don't have to purchase a single thing. You can do this 100% free of charge in your spiral notebook. Write out your 10 journals, your 10 dreams, the goals that you're going to accomplish first. But she was like, we've created such an amazing atmosphere that she was like, I'll be darned if they want the $10, $12, $15 journal. She was like, they don't want to do it for free. They want to buy something from me because I have created that system. I've created that desire. I've created that community, and they want something. She said, when you create that in your customers, when you know what they want, you can give them exactly what they want, what they're asking for, and they will tell you what they like, what they are most interested in, with how they engage. If you get tons of engagement on your hair, skin, nail post, but not as much on your cleanse, you know that your market loves hair, skin, nails. If you see people engaging with your kid pictures more often than they're engaging with you and your husband out on a date, you know your market are probably moms who love seeing your kid pictures. So whatever it is that your market is engaging with, give them that, because it will be so easy to sell when you know exactly what they need. She said, figure out what your audience wants and answer the questions before they're asked. So if you know that your audience is mostly moms or mostly single college students or mostly retirees or whatever it is that your audience is, if you can speak to that audience, she said, if you can answer their questions before they even come to you, you've already overcome so many of those objections before they even get to you. And she said, when you are talking about the value that you're bringing and you're answering those questions, she said, it's such an easy sell because they are coming to you asking to buy something from you. They're not coming to you with objections already in mind. She said, never let strangers on the internet determine if you are good at your job. And she told us this funny story that how during one of the breaks, she left to go for lunch and she came back and she was reading us one of the hater reviews. And it was hilarious. It was somebody that was bashing how she was such a terrible speaker. And doesn't that woman just rip off everybody else's quotes? And she was laughing. She was like, if I let some single weirdo in his mom's basement determine my value and my worth, she said, I would never do anything. And she said, it may not be some weirdo in somebody's basement, but she was talking about how so much of the time we give other people's opinions weight in our life when it does not validate it in any way, shape, or form. She said, let's see. Oh, and she was talking about adding value. So she was talking about how whenever you are constantly adding value, adding value, adding value to your market, they come back to you over and over and over again. And she said, if you are adding value, but 3 times to whatever you're asking of people, she said they're always going to come back to you. She said people should know your name before they know that they need your product. She said they should know you because you are constantly showing up in their feed. You are the person that they go to for inspirational quotes, for funny gifts, for, just to be uplifted in some way, shape, or form. They should know your name. If you are anywhere in their network, they should know your name before they even realize that they need your thing. And so she said, people should be engaging with you. They should like you. They should be coming to you regardless of whether they're a customer or not, because you have something of value to offer them, regardless of whether they're a customer. When you add value, people get to know you and they come over and over and over again. And then that moment when they realize that they do want to lose weight, they do want to try your coffee, they do want your product or service, they do want to make extra money, you're the first person they think of because you've been on their mind adding value this whole time. And so when you're adding value, that's when you keep people coming back. She was talking about how consistency is key. And she said one of the things that she does to save time is she just batch does a lot of her work. She said she'll take lots and lots of pictures and then she'll just batch edit pictures. She'll write posts and batch write posts. So if you can sit down and set aside 10 to 15 minutes, on one thing, it's so much easier for you to work on one task with focus than it is for you to work on 10 smaller tasks and break up your time. So if you have the time to batch edit, to batch write, to batch take pictures. Brittany has said this before, whenever you look pretty on Sunday morning and you have makeup on, take lots of pictures. Take pictures around your house, take pictures with your kids, take pictures with your husband, take pictures because it might be the one time a day that your hair looks amazing and you've got your lipstick on and everything is on point. Take pictures and take advantage of that. If you need to change your shirt so it looks like you're a different day and a different time, change your shirt and then go take a few more pictures around your house. So if you can find ways to simplify your life, that's when you can get more done. That was one of the things that Brendan Burchard was talking about too, is you simplify to amplify, and when you simplify, it brings consistency and it brings clarity and it brings focus, because if you can focus on just a few simple tasks, you get more done. Rachel was talking about, she gave this analogy. She said, if you had 6 soccer balls lined up in a row and you got 6 kicks a day, she said, most people want to kick every single soccer ball once. And she said, how long would it take for you to get every single one of those soccer balls across the finish line? She was like, a long time, because you're only kicking one a day. But she said, if you were to take one soccer ball at a time and kick it 6 times in a day, then you're accomplishing one goal at a time and you're getting it over the finish line. So focus on that one thing. If you need to work on your health, first and foremost, work on your health before you work on, fixing your nightly routine or whatever. If you need to work on good habits that are going to get you in a good habit of consistency with your posting, work on that thing. But find the things that your business needs the most and work on one thing at once and focus on that one thing, because then when you get it over the finish line and it becomes a habit, you can go back and work on the next thing and add that to it. Because once you've already established a single habit for something smaller, it's much easier to add the other thing. Dave Hollis spoke, and he was talking about the things that are going to get in your way in the business. And he said, the value that you place on the way things have always been done, that's the very first thing that gets in people's way. If you value, that's how it's always been done, over growth and over change and over adapting to what comes next, he said that is the first and foremost thing that will kill your business. You have to be adaptable. You have to learn new strategies, new formatting, new systems, new apps. You constantly have to be growing and changing, because if you value the way it's always been done, you're going to get left behind. He said the cost of your future business is your current one. And he was talking also about the voice of authority is the number 3 reason why people get held back. That voice of authority, whether it be your parents, your sister, your spouse, your mom, your friend, your whatever. He said, and it was interesting because every single one of the speakers had just a couple things that overlapped that they all talked about. But this was one of those things, was the fact that we give so many other people opinions in our lives and opinions in our business, and it's not valid. he was talking about, let me skip ahead. I've got a whole page on Dave Hollis, but I'm going to skip ahead to Trent Shelton. He said, your business will test your commitment, or he said your commitments will be tested when your business is tested. He said, if you have rooted reasons that make you committed, he said, that's when you'll stay. He said, when it starts blowing, he said, your business is like a tree. And if you have just shallow roots, if you're just interested and you're just feeling it out, the first time a storm comes, it's going to blow your business over. He said, but if you have roots that are deep and if your reasons are rooted, then those roots run deep. And then when those storms come, you're still rooted because you have those reasons and you're committed to your business. He said, he said, are you interested or are you committed? He said, champions are committed. You have to have emotional resilience because that's when he said, you can't build a complex organization with frail emotions. And he was talking about just having the emotional resilience to get back up again, no matter what happens, no matter who quits, no matter who said something ugly, no matter, how far you fell rank or whatever happened, you have to have that emotional resilience to do your business, even when you don't want to, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're sick, even when you're tired, even when you're whatever, because you cannot build a sustaining business with frail emotions. He said, if you give yourself the option to quit, you eventually will. He said, because there are going to be storms. It's not a matter of if, but when. There are going to be storms. And if you're not committed, you will eventually quit. But he said, if you don't give yourself the option to quit, your mind will find ways to figure it out. He said, protect your business like you protect your life, and you have to build self-control. So you have to learn to get up and do your business when you're tired. You have to learn to exercise and take care of your health. You have to learn to do these things and have this emotional resilience that bounces back, because having that self-control to build your business even when you don't want to is how you build something that lasts. He said, you have to make a decision that your future self will thank you for and not hate you for. So I loved that quote, because you think about so I think about this company being one of them, this business decision. If I had not made this decision 2 years ago, I can't even imagine, you guys, I can see from a distance all of the crazy that is happening at my old job and the people that have fired and the internal struggles and all the chaos. You guys, I cannot even imagine where I would be now and how much I would hate myself for not trying if I had not just jumped out and tried. And he said, somebody asked you, I'm going to say it again. You have to make decisions that your future self will thank you for and not hate you for. He said, time is your most valuable, unlimited resource. Don't waste it. He said, consistency makes you a go-to person, and you can't control everything, but you can control your consistency. And he was talking about, and that just goes back again to what Rachel was saying about being consistent and adding value. When you are consistent over and over and over and over again, you're going to have people left and right that pop up, and they're here today and they're gone tomorrow. And they started this business and then they started that business. And maybe they've been in 3 businesses this year and nobody takes them seriously because they're not consistent. But when you are consistent, that's when people know that you're there and they eventually come. He said, success doesn't often depend on world-class talent, but it will always depend on consistency. And he said, why do we have zero problem? Oh gosh, this got me too, you guys. Why do we have zero problem showing up for the things we hate, but we can't consistently show up to the things we need most? He said, we have a commitment issue. And he was talking specifically about jobs that we hate. He said, you can show up to a minimum wage job, waiting tables, flipping burgers, showing up to the office. You have zero problem showing up to that job that you hate, but you can't seem to make time for this business that you so desperately need. He said, why is that an issue? He said, why can we show up to McDonald's on time for our shift every day, but we can't seem to work our business? He said, it's a commitment issue. And he said, if you aren't committed and your roots aren't deep, it'll never last. And that was just, oh my gosh, you guys, that was where I was at. I was showing up to a job every single day that I hated. And I realized that I had to show up to my business. You guys, I'm not at all going to take the time to tell you how ridiculous and crazy and miserable my job was. But there were weeks and weeks and weeks at a time that I would work for almost a month without a day off. There were days that I had multiple events happening at different parts of my resort, and I had to be there at sometimes 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't get off until 1 or 2 o'clock at the next day, like almost a 24-hour shift, because I had to be the person on site, and I had to be the person that everything went through, and I had a wedding here, and I had a conference here, and I had a retreat here, and everything flowed through me. But I also knew that if I didn't work my business, my life was never going to change, and I was going to continue to be miserable and hate my life and hate my job and hate everything, and it was only going to get worse. And so you better believe that every spare minute I had, I would go sit in the stairwell and I would work on my business for a couple of minutes. When I was walking, I would park as far away as I could in the back lot so that I would have an extra couple of minutes while I was walking into my job, because I could answer questions on my way from my car to the job. If I was getting coffee, I wouldn't just stand there while my K-cup was brewing. I would answer a couple of questions, or I would get out a post, or I would do something for my business. And so when I was building, I had like, 2, 3, 4, 5-minute little segments of time here and there. And I had to utilize every single minute of it, but it was so worth it now. And I look back at where I would be if I didn't have that. He was talking about, he said, you have to feel vividly and imagine what you will gain by showing up, and or what you will lose and who you'll disappoint if you don't. And he said, think about that for a second. And he had to sit there and he said, like, close your eyes and think about like your family, think about their faces, think about your kids' future, think about all the things that you will miss out on if you don't show up. And he was like, how awful does that make you feel? Like, it makes you sick to your stomach to think about the fact that you can't pay your bills, you can't provide for your family, you can't send your kids to school. But he said, think about all of those beautiful faces whenever you hit that next, rank, that next promotion, that next whatever. He said, and think about that feeling that it's going to give you and what that's going to do for your family, whether you pay off debt, whether you put it in savings, whether you do this, do that. He said, sit down every single day and visualize. He said, that's what we as top athletes did. He said, we had to visualize and map out our plays, our games, our day. We sat and we would visualize everything. He said, I want you to do that when it comes to your business. I want you to visualize how amazing it's going to feel when you hit that next promotion and you get that next thing. And I want you to remember how awful it felt to think about those faces that you were going to disappoint. And he said, when you have those thoughts that are rooted in emotion, he said, emotion leads to actions and actions lead to results. So he was talking about rooting your why with not only just those reasons, but also with emotion. He said, the process is what teaches you what you need to get to the next level. You can't skip to the top or you won't be prepared for it. And so he was talking about how like we have to go through the hard things and we have to go through the valleys because you learn through the valleys. And Tom Bilyeu, which I'll quote in just a second, but Tom Bilyeu said, failure is the most data-rich source of, what did he say? Failure is the most data-rich source of information that you can find. He said, instead of treating our failures like mistakes and trying to avoid failure at all costs, he said, treat it as a learning opportunity, because he said, you can use those failures as steps to get to the next level. He said, or you can be buried underneath them. He said, the choice is up to you. But if you're afraid to fail and you're afraid to try, you will never have the information that comes with the failure. And he was talking about how failure teaches us more than success does. He said, if you're successful, it might teach you something that you need to do. But he said, when you fail, you learn multiple ways not to do things, and you learn how to adapt and how to overcome and how to keep going. And he was talking about how failure is actually more beneficial for growth, because when you are failing, you're constantly growing into what you need to be to get to the next level. He said, nobody gets to skip to the top. You have to go through all the failures that it takes to get to the next level. And he said, growth is impossible without faith. Confidence is built when you give yourself permission to fail. And so he was talking about how you can't grow your faith if you are so afraid of failure. He said you have to allow yourself and give yourself a minute to fail, because if you're too afraid of failing, you'll never get the successes either. Brendan Burchard was very like detail oriented on structures and on systems. And I didn't really take any of the notes that I wrote from his. I really just, the one quote that I wrote from his was, keep it simple and clear, simplify to amplify. And then Marie Forleo was very similar. She was talking about her new book, Everything is Figure Outable. And she was talking about, she gave these examples of like her mom, who was only high school educated. Her mom was, just this single, working mom. But that her mom would like, she would come home and find her mom with like, the toaster oven or the TV or something would be like completely, pulled apart, and she would be fixing it. And she didn't have a clue what she was doing, but it was necessary. So she was going to figure it out. And she was talking about one time she came in and her mom was like up on the roof, and she was like patching up the roof because they had a leak in the roof and she couldn't afford to pay for it. So she was going to figure it out. And she said, when you know what's important, it gives you room to see. Oh, nope, sorry. Not that one. That was Brendan Burchard. When you know what's important, it gives you room to see more clearly what's not important. But Marie Forleo, she said, nothing is complicated when you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. And she was talking about how we like overcomplicate all these things, but she was talking about basically how action just cures that. She said, if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work, you'll figure it out. Everything is figure outable. You will figure it out when you put it into action and when you try. But she said, if you're unwilling to try to figure it out and try, she said, so often we get stuck in like the fear of the unknown. And she said, everything is figure outable when you're just willing to work. I really love that. It just made it so simple. Everything is figure outable. And then Ed Milet, I loved him so much. I think he was my favorite speaker. One of the very first things that he talked about whenever he came out on stage was the fact that a lot of us as business owners, we've heard before that we need to do goal setting and we need to, write our goals out and write our affirmations. But he said, taking it a step further, he said, what makes it real in your mind is whenever you anchor your goals with your body. And he was talking about how if you can anchor your goals with running, with just like doing jumping jacks, with like standing in the mirror, like looking at yourself, like, pumping yourself up in the mirror, jumping up and down, anchoring your goals. He said, if you're standing in the mirror, you need to have your goals written on the mirror, and you need to be like jumping up and down and moving your body in some way, shape, or form and naming those goals while you move. He said, if you're a runner, he said, put your goals, in your mind and play them over and over and over while you run. Or if you run on a treadmill, put them on a goal sheet and read over them while you run, because that movement, that constant moving and moving your body and moving your mind, he said, it anchors everything together, and it just knits it so much together that it becomes a part of you. He said, you remember things better when you're saying it over in your mind while you're moving, but he said, you will remember it and it will anchor those goals whenever you move your body too. And so, and that was one of the reasons why Rachel Hollis, if you ever go to any of her concerts, conferences, she has you like stand up and dance and then sit down and stand up and get down. Like we were up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down the whole time. But it's because not only is the movement good for you, and she's a huge proponent of exercise and getting in your 30 minutes a day, but also it's so much good. It's so much better for your memory. It's so good for you to anchor those goals with your body. And Ed Milet said, God gave you this business to use. Don't waste it. He said, you owe it to your family and your kids who are watching you. And again, it just goes back to what Rachel was talking about in the beginning about how your kids are watching you and how you owe it to your family to do the best that you possibly could be and build the biggest business and go as far as you could possibly go, because God gave you this for a reason. And he put this passion in your heart for a purpose. And if we don't take advantage of that, we're wasting it. He said, enjoy your success. This was something that hit home to me so much, because I was telling Chris just the other day, I was so frustrated. And I said, like, I have been in the business almost 2 years. Like I'm coming up in, well, I'm 3 months away from 2 years. I'm not really that close, but it feels close, but I'm coming up in 2 years. And I was telling him, I was like, I should be so much further along. I don't know why I'm not triple yet. Why am I not triple yet? And, I was just frustrated. And he said, but Ed Milet was talking about, he said, if you don't give yourself an opportunity to enjoy your success, if you breeze over it, he said, your brain doesn't process that as a win. And he said, you need to enjoy your success. He said, it trains your brain to win, not just to play. And he was talking about the physical, like the neurological processes that happen in your brain when you experience that euphoria of a win, no matter how small. He said, if you can train yourself to enjoy the wins, it literally trains your brain to go out and look for more wins, because you physically crave that euphoria and that feeling that, that comes from a win. And he said, so many of us are just playing the game. And he said, we get stuck in where we want to go. And if we're not there yet, we discard the win that we just had. And I'm bad about that. Chris tells me all the time, he was like, you never celebrate like the little victories along the way. He said, because you're not where you want to be yet. He was like, you pass it off and you just say something like, yeah, it's fine, on to the next, or, it's about time, or, whatever it is. And he said, so much of the time, he said, we are not allowing ourselves to have the victory of the win, no matter how small it is. It is important that you celebrate it, and not just for your own, not just to pump yourself up, but literally to train your brain to crave the win and crave the success, because your brain will go out and find more of it. And so that hit home to me so much, because I have very, very oftentimes, not even given myself a minute to be like, that's awesome. Great job. That, I had a win today. That's a great day. I'm like, awesome. On to the next, that's only 1/10 of my goal. Let's keep going. And so I guess in my mind, I felt like if I took time to celebrate the win, it would slow down my success and my drive for more. So I didn't even want to give myself that, but I was actually doing the opposite. And I was like killing my own like mindset, because I wasn't training myself to go search for the wins. I was training myself to play the game. And so he was talking about, whenever you have success in your business, no matter how small, celebrate it, and celebrate it big, and train your brain to go look for more wins. He said, decide who you want to be and just go be that person. He was like, it's literally that simple. If you want to be fit, go exercise more. If you want to be the person that's on time, stop being late. He was like, whoever you want to be, just go be that person. He was like, it's literally that simple. He said, think about that person in your head. Like, think about your ideal self. Are you wealthier? Are you fitter? Are you happier? Are you more successful? Are you this? Are you that? And he was like, the vast majority of those things you could already be. He was like, you don't have to wait for your future self to be that person. If you want to be joyful, you make the choice and you be joyful. If you want to be successful, make that choice that you're going to be successful. He said, because if you don't make the choice to just start showing up and acting like that person, he said, when you play the part enough, it becomes who you are. He said, think about it. He said, if you had somebody that were to show up on the football field in pads, and they show up and they're playing and they're practicing and they're playing the game and they're playing the game and they're playing the game, eventually people are going to associate them as being a football player. He said, if you show up as your ideal self, people are going to associate you as being your ideal self when you eventually play the game enough. He said, you have to show up as that person. It's literally that simple, which was funny to me. It is. If we want to be healthier, we need to just go work out more. If we want to be more successful, we need to work a little harder. Just show up as that person. He said, God made you with a destiny and a purpose and a job to do. I didn't finish the quote. I don't know what he said. God gave you a destiny and purpose. He said, and he told this story about your business is like a piñata. And he was like, you can take a hit here and you can take a hit here and you can take a hit here. But he said, when you've got these kids, going up and hitting the piñata over and over and over and over again, he said, that's when you see the candy come out. When you hit the piñata and you hit it and you hit it and you hit it. He was like, you don't hit a piñata one time and you see the candy come out. It takes consistency. You have to work at it and you have to actively try to get the candy out for it to come. And he was talking about sharpening your skills in your mind. And one thing that Tom Billy, you said, it was a little bit awkward. It definitely made all of us cringe a little bit. There was a woman up in the stands and he was taking questions, and this woman stood up and she was like, I've been trying, I've been working so hard and I just can't get there. I just don't know what I'm doing. And before she even finished, she said, you're not good enough yet. And he was like, sorry, you're not. He was like, I know that's going to be hard for some of you, but he said, if you're not where you want to be yet, it's because you don't have the skill set for it yet. You're not good enough yet. He said, you can't continue to do the same things that you've always done and expect your business to go to the next level. He said, your skill set has taken you as far as it will take you. If you want to get to the next level, you have to sharpen your skill set and sharpen your axe and get better. And he straight up told her, she was like, I've been doing all the things and I'm not there yet. And he was like, you're not good enough. Sorry, you're just not. And he was like, I know it's hard to hear, but for all of us, our skill set, and I hadn't even thought about it that way. The skill set that took you to Ruby, that's not going to get you to Emerald. It takes better skills to get to Emerald. The skill set that got you to Emerald, is not going to get you to triple diamond or presidential or ambassador. That's a joke, right? You have to get better skills to get to the next level. You don't get to skip over those skills because you wouldn't have those skills to build to that next thing that you need. And so it was talking about, you know, wherever you are now, you may not be where you want to be yet, but the good thing is it's fixable. You fix it by just bettering your skills. You do more, you get better and you do more. Consistency. I wrote another quote about consistency. I don't remember where it was, but it was about consistency provides, dang it, what was it? I don't know. It was something along the lines of consistency builds, it wasn't perfection, but it was something like that. And how, you know, we expect to have these amazing businesses and we want them to be perfect and all these things, but we can't get those skills without consistency. And so, well, I don't remember now, but it was a good one. So I'll catch you guys next time. But man, it was so good. Let me go back real quick and check. I haven't looked at any of the chats.
I'll just jump in while you're looking at the chat. That is, oh my gosh, I'm over here taking notes like crazy. That is just such good stuff. Like I just wrote down so many things. I loved when you talked about how our kids start off where we leave off. Like that is such a huge thing to think about. Something I've never even, like, my mind has never gone there before. And then I love the part about moving and saying your goals. I have my goals on my mirror right now. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to jump around and say those each morning.
Jump around while you say them, aren't you?
Yeah, that's seriously such good stuff. Debora, I am so appreciative that you shared all of that. I'm sure you have like pages and pages more. I can't even imagine. Like,
I do. And I'm sorry I was like a squirrel all over the map. I tried to condense it, but
no, you did a great job.
It made it a little hodgepodge.
I think if you look at the chat, I think we all agree that we are all just like soaking in all this information and wish we could have been there too. But thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so excited to see where all of this takes you in your business. And I'm excited to see too where it's going to take everybody else that's getting to hear just everything you've learned and apply it to their business too. I think that it's going to make such a huge difference on this team. So I love you and I'm so appreciative of you. And you guys, thank you for being on this. And I hope y'all have an awesome night. Bye.
Bye, guys.